And if everything went well, we should be live. Hey, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Everything Outside Code. It feels kind of interesting to just go from talking about stuff to like, okay, we have to be serious now. Um, but welcome to today's episode of Everything Outside Code, where I talk to interesting founders, GTM experts, um, and just professionals in general about the what I think is the really hard parts of going to market. Um, for me, I've always thought software engineering was difficult, and then I became an entrepreneur, and then I thought sales was difficult, and then I figured out that people are actually even more difficult dealing with people. So today I'm going to be talking to Annie and Michael about people, and we're going to be going a bit deeper into the junior hiring crisis. If you're a junior developer, marketer, just a junior professional now, straight out of college, you're probably panicking, right? I'm panicking on your behalf as well when I think about the current state of things. So hopefully we're able to offer some insights that you find very useful. I've already gotten some before I hit start on the stream, but over to the people of the moment, Annie and Michael. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having us, William. This is really fun.
Yeah, we're gonna have fun for the next 30 minutes. So yeah, tell me about yourselves. Annie, you can go first. Michael, you can go. You can go next. How'd you get here? Not to the stream, but how'd you get to do what you do now?
Well, let's see. I started my career not in technology at all. I got a degree in film because that's super practical. And I did that for a few years before I stayed home to have kids. So I was a casting director back in Texas when we lived there. And did that for a little while. Then I stayed home to have kids. Then I got into technology where I started in cloud automation as a cloud automation engineer. And then from there, I started working at HashiCorp doing as a software engineer for the Terraform Enterprise team and product. And then a couple of years ago, I quit my job at HashiCorp to start people work. And so, as I was telling you earlier, like people is always on our mind. Like and we knew that when AI was coming, that the people part of the puzzle, which is your career, is going to have the most impact and the most difference in your career. And so that's what we're trying to help people with now.
That's great. Michael?
And I'm Michael. The part she didn't mention is that we've been married for almost 25 years.
Yeah.
So in that
No,
25
it's
years,
24. Wait, it was
I said
2002.
almost.
So whatever that is.
Oh, Michael.
Coming up on the fractions are
24 years. Coming up on 24 years. Yeah.
yeah, the fractions are difficult to track.
All right. Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, we've been together for a long time. During the journey that Annie was talking about, I did most of that time in software. I worked at a restaurant software company for a long time. I worked for Splunk, and then we decided to do this. And during that whole time, we realized that the people side of technology is underappreciated. People don't have a lot of attention to it or tooling around it. And we just wanted to solve that. We think that the people side of people's job and people's career path is really important, and not enough people paying attention to it. And so we're here to change that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And when you say people, do you mean people on like an individual level, or people as a whole, collectively in a workspace, or just professionally outside the workspace?
Yeah,
What is that?
yeah, great question. So at my previous company at Splunk, I was a senior engineering manager. The company before that, I was a director for the restaurant software company. And we had people tooling. We had Workday in both situations where you'd fill in your, reviews and give people raises and stuff like that. And that's not, and when people think of the people side of their jobs, they think of HR. But what we just saw is that there's just a gap there. That stuff is great for HR. It's great if you're running a large company. You need all that stuff. But there was nothing really to help me as a manager do my job, or when I'm coaching people on how to interact with other people inside of a company, how to do their jobs. Or for the topic today, if we're talking to a student trying to get a job, really the direction that they're given is just get on LinkedIn and post a lot. And that is definitely what you need to be doing, but you need to be doing more. You need to be curating a small number of relationships, et cetera. And we've just really explored that kind of more individual level. So our
Hmm.
product is really about selling to the individual using it. It's not about, onboarding large companies and HR departments. It's really for you, the individual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the online part of things for your own branding and things like that, there's definitely a necessary component of all of that. It's the part that we all sort of love to hate. You have to advertise your stuff and know that, get people to know that you're out there, that you exist. But also having real connections with people can never be replaced. It's just, there's something special about seeing somebody face to face, talking with them, understanding what they want, what they desire for their lives beyond just their jobs. Like, we're humans, and we've tried for hundreds of years to take out the human side of ourselves from our careers, and it's really just impossible. I mean, we're human, and we work in these jobs, and so we have to have these human relationships and human connections, and AI is bringing us back to that because it's showing us that it's really the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I always bet on being human. Currently betting on being human. But obviously with a lot of, FOMO out there, you get to like rethink like what exactly does it mean to be human? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh what transformation would you say people derive when they use or work with people work? And how has that changed over time? If that's something you've thought about, just the change of what's the core transformation they get after people work?
I think that people, like I said, they understand that it's not just a matter of working really hard at your job and doing the best that you can and that you'll succeed. They see that you're working with other people, and you have to understand what they need and how you can show up for them. And so they see things as a holistic picture. If you're a manager, let's say, and you have, let's say, 5 direct reports, each of those people needs you to show up maybe in a slightly different way. And how do you know how you're supposed to show up for each person unless you're intentional about each of those relationships? And how do you remember all of the things that you need to deliver to them and all of the things that they're delivering to you? And how do you just keep it all straight within the context of these human relationships also, and like major OKRs and KPIs and all the things? And like, there is software that keeps track of all of that, but there's not the software that keeps track of, oh, well, so and so on my team just, told me that they're going through a hard time personally. So how do I reconcile that to their deliverables right now? Or how do I show up for them in a human way? Or this other person on my team really wants to grow fast. So this is different than the rest of my team. So how do I show up for them in that way? So it's just a matter of um, being our best selves, but intentionally. Like, we all want to be that perfect manager, that is able to show up for people in that way. But if we don't
Mhm.
have a system that keeps track of it all, everything just falls through the cracks, and your best intentions just, I don't want to say fail, but they don't live up to what they could be because there's just not a good tool in place that keeps track of that. There's a ton of HR tools, like we talked about, but the HR tools are for HR. Like, they are the
For
buyer.
the
It's
org.
for them. Yeah, exactly. For the organization. Exactly. But there's nothing for you to put your private thoughts in about these human relationships in a safe space that you can have your feelings and um, make assumptions and come up with the best course of action for these people. Michael, were you going to add to that? You looked like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I mean, we could use an example too. We had an early user that was starting a new job, and they really cared about quality, and so they kept feeling like that they were boxed in to the QA world, and in this job they had those responsibilities. But this person used our software to understand the new company's key relationships that they needed to be a part of at different levels, and then just got intentional. And the interesting thing, they got intentional, and that in itself was a really valuable thing. But then over time, they realized what that intentionality got, because you could always say, if I was just intentional with my CEO, then my CEO would know about me, and this would be great. But
Mhm.
chances are, if you're at a large company, your CEO doesn't care about you, and that's not the right person. The right person is the person where you can give them something, where they can give you something back, and that intentionality breeds mutual success and mutual improvement. And so the cool thing to
And
see
trust.
over, yeah, and trust. The coolest thing to see over the life cycle of that onboarding experience this person had was just seeing who the people were that were worth investing in on both sides, and who just probably didn't have any interest. And that got them really strategic about their goal to better take advantage of the quality mindset that this person had in a broader engineering capacity.
Yeah. So would you say people work is more like goal centric, so on a personal level, or it is, would I call it work centric in the sense that you define the experience for them? So you're shaping it based off your opinion of how they could become like a great colleague, for instance, and any other intents that you decide to feature, or it's I show up and I set up my goals and work helps me get there, get to those goals. What does that look like?
It's both, actually. So there's a part where you can enter in your own goals. Like my goal for myself is that I want to, be the best manager that I can be, to show up for my team members. I want to, I don't know, get this promotion by this time. I want to learn this new skill, whatever. Like you list out all your goals. But then you also, if Michael is in my org, if he's my direct report,
Mhm.
then I would put that my goal for Michael is to support him in getting the promotion that he wants and help him to, whatever. So like I'm listing out the goals that I have for each relationship, as well as like whatever that goal they have that they tell me
Mhm.
about that I can support them in. So it's very free flowing. Like you can use it however you want, but that's the way that it's intended to use, is that you would always keep in mind these like mutually beneficial relationships. Not that you're giving to get. Like I always say it's not about giving to get, but it's about having this give first mentality, because the philosophy behind it is that, good will probably come to you. It might not be directly from the person that you gave to, but if you're putting good out into the world, it'll likely come back to you, just because that's what you're manifesting.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. That makes sense. Well, let's go a bit back from folks that have a job to those that don't. Uh, we're going to talk about the junior hiring crisis. Michael, what would you say is the current state of junior hiring? Is it something that you've thought about? I mean, you're working with people. How's it at the
Yeah,
moment?
um, it feels like it's changing week by week. Um, Annie wrote a
Okay.
blog post at the beginning of December, and this was before what I think would be a really big AI agent revolution that came about as a result of new models, Claude 4.5 and et cetera, coming out.
When you listen to Claude talk about it too, like the people that work at Claude, they think that like also during the holiday break, everybody was just home playing with all of these agents, and then like sparks were
Not
flying and they
paying
were
attention to their
realizing Yeah.
family.
Well, they were realizing what they could do with them. And then whenever
Yeah.
they came back to work after the holidays, there was this
Yeah.
resurgence. Yeah, people were so excited. And so there was definitely a marker in time at December of 2025. Something changed. But sorry,
Something
go ahead.
changed, yeah, and it changed for us too. But before then, and since then, there has been a reduction in junior hiring roles, and that's just clear. There's been a flat and increasing um, availability of senior hiring roles, and this thought that by companies that we don't necessarily need the juniors, we'll just have the seniors talk to the AI and they know everything, and we're going to get so much more done without wasting a bunch of time. And we just feel like that's so short-sighted and so wrong. And we also have kids that are late teens and kind of going into the world. So we have a personal investment in helping with this problem. So we've talked to a lot of students over the last 6 months while making this business about the key principles that are needed for them to succeed. And it's really the same thing that's needed really in any situation. And that is, you need to narrow down the relationships that you have to 10 or 20 that you're focused on, and be intentional about those and figure out how you can show up for those people. And most people aren't doing that. They're trying to automate their resume submission. They're trying to gather more friends on LinkedIn, which are maybe some good things, but getting 20 people in your life that you can be intentional about is foundational for everybody, and most especially these junior positions in order to get past this hurdle that people today are having.
If you take two different college students, like let's say they're both seniors, they're both 6 months from graduating, and one of them is just like doing their best to play the game, right? Like they're updating their resume to all the keywords, they're doing all the tricks for the AI, like how I don't even know what the tricks are beyond the what do they call them, the white letter things where you basically hide keywords into your resume.
Size one
Yeah.
Yeah,
Please hire
all
this
that stuff.
person.
in white.
Like
Yeah,
let's say
I'm the
that,
best.
yeah, let's say that they're
Yeah.
doing all the things, they're blasting out, connecting with as many people as they can on LinkedIn, but not actually following up with any of them, just like connecting, like they think that just, connecting is good enough. And then like, oh, surely if I say on LinkedIn, hey, I'm looking for a job, surely one of these connections will come through for me. But they don't have any real life connections with any of these people. So they're not going to get very far. And then you take this other student who's 6 months away from graduating. And instead of spending all of their time doing that, let's say they have no online presence. I mean, that's not very realistic nowadays, but let's just say that they didn't. But they went to a professional meetup 3 days a week, right? They're college students, so they may or may not have time for that. But let's just say that they did. And they are talking with industry professionals 3 days a week. They're following up with them. They're going out to coffee. They're asking about their problems, about what kind of problems they're solving. Like, hey, Michael, you're a professional that's been in the industry for almost 30 years. Like, what have you seen change over time? And so they're making these real life connections that show that they're curious people who know how to problem solve. That person is, I'm not worried about that person. You know what I mean? Like they're probably going to find a job pretty fast because one of those people is going to vouch for them, And that's exactly what we're talking about. Like focus on the real life few, 10 to 20 relationships where you really connect with these people, where you really, you've gotten to know them so well that you're kind of taking a vested interest in their problems, and you talk about them and you just have this professional relationship, even though you don't work with each other. That's exactly what we're trying to help students do through mentorship, through, online presence and stuff, but also through our app.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Find 20 people, and a lot of folks would think this applies to just juniors. Spoken to a lot of seniors lately that have suddenly become juniors because they've just been at a part of like their career, And I saw this from hiring actually. So I'm trying to hire engineers. Someone's come in, they've got 12 years experience. I talk to them and I see they're not up to date. They've just been doing the same thing
Hmm.
for like the most part of the most part of their career. And suddenly they're a junior again, right? So I feel
I
like
Yeah.
know.
these tips also um apply to them. But I know relationships are usually a two-way street, right? In the past, when I was just getting started, I did do a lot of, you know, volunteering, reaching out to people and trying to do stuff. But usually, folks that have perceived value do not also like they're not keen to want to connect, right? They see it as an ask is coming, like so when's the
Mm.
ask gonna drop, right? When's the when
Yes.
you make a recommendation gonna hit, right? How do you envision people get past that, right? How do they get past the I'm just trying to connect and then maybe we just have a good time regardless and see what comes out of this newfound friendship. Also, if this has to be done virtually, because I think in person, if there was like a community where you go to meet someone, conversations are
Mhm.
easy to strike. But you try sending someone like a cold message on LinkedIn just to connect, they're already waiting for like the sales pitch. Like, are you an SDR somewhere? So
You're right.
how do you envision folks get past that? But juniors and seniors alike. Michael or Annie, you can go first.
I could take that. So I have 25 years experience in software. I'm way ahead of um, anybody in the university in terms of my career and experience. But really, to back up, we live a 10-minute bike ride away from University of Colorado in Boulder. Um, and one student at CU has approached me and with an interest in my software, um, like in a networking capacity. I've talked to a lot of them in the normal capacity, but one has come to me and said, "Hey, tell me about your software," and provided some feedback. And so being able to go to somebody and understand what their problems are or have some curiosity about problems and see how you can help, and you can really do a lot to help people, um, if you're curious and if you're not preoccupied with what you need, just getting curious about how you can help other people, that goes a long way. So that would be one thing I would say is people need your help a lot more than you think they may need your help, and that is a very valuable thing. The other thing I would say is that I haven't approached any billionaires about people work, because they don't need it and they don't need me. So billionaires and people who are wildly wealthy don't have the problems that we're talking about. And so you have to be able to talk to people that you have a relationship with, where the problems that they're having connect to the problems that you're having, in order for there to be mutual beneficial relationship. And a lot of times people go for like the uber successful people, like, I need to talk to my CEO, or where's that senior vice president that I can have lunch with? It reminds me of a time, this is like 15, 20 years ago. I thought that to myself, and so I took a skip level boss to lunch. We're having barbecue, and I'm asking him for career advice. And during this conversation, he had no clue about engineering and software career paths. He was a skip level, but he was a skip level from a product and marketing perspective. Did not and was managing my organization as a vice president, in a vice president
Yeah.
leadership capacity, but he didn't have a clue. And like, I shouldn't have gone to lunch with him and asked him that question. That's not a point at which our problems aligned. What it would have been more interesting is, what kinds of things are keeping you up at night, and then trying to find things where those things are things that I'm interested in as well. And that connection is really where the value lies, because then you can mutually help each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll add to that. So I if anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, I just accept everybody. I'm just because, I'm a product owner and and a co-founder. So I'm like, yeah, please connect with me so that you can see all my posts. So I hope nobody thinks that. But okay, but the flip side of that is if you DM me and you like want to talk about something or you're curious about something or whatever, I am so excited for people to talk to. Like I work remotely. I am building a product that is working on the people side of your job. So I want to talk to people, right? Like that really gets me excited whenever somebody like throw something on my calendar for 30 minutes and let's talk. So that's one side of things. Like, yes, I love that. But then, of course, I accept all of my DM or not DMs. I accept all of my LinkedIn connections. So I get a ton of cold DMs, like for people selling their services. And I have to learn the skill of being able to know if somebody just wants to try to sell me their service that I don't need right now because, I know what I need as a business owner and I know what I don't need. And so I need to know how to read those DMs and know who I want to talk to and who I don't want to talk to and what the follow-up questions are and all of that. And so that's just a skill you build. Like, I think, yeah, like DM all the people and build that skill so that you start understanding intuitively what's happening behind the scenes when people are DMing you. And then also, when you're meeting people in person, same thing applies. Oh, somebody wants to go get coffee. Well, okay, are they trying to sell me something? Is that a bad thing? Maybe I want their thing that they're buying, and do I want to learn from this person? Like maybe they are just trying to sell me something, but I want to learn about their industry, or I want to learn, like there might be something in it for me, even if I don't want the product, And so with all of those things, I think especially engineers, y'all, I'm an engineer, so I can say this, but we are so skeptical of anyone that wants to like approach us because we know that somebody wants to sell something. Like that's the first thing in our head. What are they trying to sell me?
Yeah.
That's not always a bad thing, like it's okay. You might still connect with them on something, on some other level. You might learn something from them. So all that to say, like the more you talk to people, the more even if 90% of that is people trying to sell you something, you're still going to grow as a human, like having all of those human interactions. You're still going to understand when you want to talk to somebody and when you don't. And then also, opportunities can come out of those things. Like maybe you'll meet somebody that you end up really having a good professional relationship with for some other reason, So all that to say, use it as a skill building opportunity.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And to your first point on trying, like you will know if you don't try. To Michael, just one person has approached him. That's a whole lot of others that are not trying.
Yeah.
Trying first,
Exactly.
and then developing that skill to like just filter out bullshit or know
Right.
when
Yes. And
something. Yeah,
see how much this one student stuck out in his brain. Like Michael still thinks of that one person
yeah.
out
Never
of
even.
all of the others. Like
Mhm.
Yeah,
that's so valuable.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you're right.
there's an undercurrent of like what we're talking about, and it's that things like LinkedIn are great things. Like we all use it. It's awesome. But it makes it so easy to feel like you did something. And the real work is narrowing it down to the people in your tribe, developing that tribe and being intentional and strategic about it. And we maybe we maybe took a risk when we put work in the name of our product, but it really is work to get meaningful outcomes out of relationships in a professional context. And so we lead with it. You've got to do the work, and it's not accept invite. That's kind of a scam, and it's becoming more of a scam now that AI is able to automate that. And you might be talking to OpenClaw robot that's giving you that that the invite, or talking to you or emailing you. It's all sort of devaluing those kinds of interactions, and the interactions that really count are the intentional and mutually beneficial interactions that you create by your own intention and who you are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. And I like your first point, Michael, around just being curious, because a lot of folks,
Hmm.
you see someone you look up to and you're like, well, what do you give to a person that has everything, right? There's always something, right? There's always something they don't know, something feedback, right? Feedback can come from anybody. Maybe they're building something. We all have opinions, however not useful you think it is, but maybe they'll find it useful. And also just finding, again, to your point, finding folks with some common ground, right? So someone, not maybe not a billionaire, but I guess if you're a billionaire, you could find other billionaires as well, and you've got common ground on the billion. But just finding someone, um, could be a peer, but someone in a different position, right? Maybe someone that has a job already, or someone slightly better, or they're in a place you want to be at next, like the next place you want to be. I think maybe that's a good way to think about it. Um, I'm curious, right? So while you're saying all these, and you need to find 20 people you want to nurture a relationship with, common, like I would say, challenge with this is time, right? So I know this is probably built into people work and helping people find time to nurture these relationships, but outside people work for this, how should people find time? I notice personally, right? There are certain people I remember them middle of the night. I'm like, oh, I'd love to check in with this person. I haven't spoken to them in like 6 months. I really should. But that's not the right time. And I know I don't have time. And I notice when I get really busy with work, all these other relationships kind of suffer. But I'm also the kind of person that makes time for something if it's important. And I say to people, like, if it's important, I'll make time. But in reality, it's usually very difficult. So, how do you advise people make time for this? Because it seems like time is super important to this, to making this work. Annie?
I think that you don't have to. I think the trick is knowing like what your cadence should be. Like there's some relationships that I have that maybe I only need to check in with them every 6 months, or even once a year. Like put their birthday on your calendar so that you can like tell them happy birthday every year or whatever. Or during the holidays is a great time to reach out to people. Um, like that person I really care about. We have a great working relationship. We're both fans of each other's work. And so I want to make sure that I'm intentional about at least like having them on my holiday card list or like, something that your brain connects with that person. Like, oh, I always go to this particular conference and I want to make sure to reach out to them and have lunch with them because I know that they go to that conference also. So it's just about, keeping that connection warm. But then if it's somebody that is like, that really counts on you, like maybe you're their mentor, they are your you're their mentor. Gosh, why did I get that mixed up? And they really need you, like then they're probably going to be reaching out to you a lot. But then also,
Mhm.
like if you haven't heard from them, then maybe you put it on your calendar, like as a recurring event, just a reminder, like, hey, call them every, I don't know, 6 weeks or something like that. So it's a more regular cadence. But it's just about understanding the relationship, what they need from you, what you need from them, and what is the appropriate cadence to be able to reach out to them. And then, like, if you're waking up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to Michelle in, 6 months, then if you had a, obviously, like people work does this where you you would have a reminder for the intention that you set, but maybe you've got it on your calendar, like, okay, I don't know where to worry about this. It's already on my calendar that I'm going to reach out to her like a couple weeks from now. And maybe I can do that sooner because it's on my mind right now or whatever. But like, I'm not going to let it slip through the cracks because I created an intention for this already. And I don't have to rely on my faulty memory that, because sometimes our faulty memories can make other people feel maybe not as valued or whatever, just because we got busy.
Yeah.
And I don't want somebody to not feel valued by me just because I got busy or I forgot, because I have the worst memory in the world. And that's honestly, that's probably one of the reasons why I'm so like why we end up creating an app all around working around your bad memory, because that's my fatal flaw, is that I've got a terrible memory. And I don't want to make people feel bad just because I have this flaw, you know? Michael, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I would add that one of the things that we struggle with when we're onboarding with people is just getting them to realize that the perfect thing is not important at all. The next thing is what's important. And so if you think about it, if you're trying to start a workout plan or you're trying to start an eating plan, let's do the eating plan. And you're saying, I'm going to restrict myself to 600 calories a day. Well, I bet you in about 3 days, you're going to have a pint of ice cream that you're eating while you're watching a Netflix show or something like that. That's not the right next change, even though you think mentally, yeah, that's perfect. And it's the same thing with the relationships. If you think, okay, I'm going to get good with relationships, I'm going to follow up with all these people once a week and I'm going to do all this stuff. No, you're not. And that's okay.
You
What
have to
is
be
the next
realistic.
thing? Yeah, what's the next thing that you could be doing? What's the next better version of yourself that you can be? And the interesting thing about how we've tried to design this is that that takes a really private space for you to be able to process that, where your HR department or even your manager, and no one's really watching, and it's just you evaluating what's the better version of myself, that's the incrementally better version of myself, where I can take a little bit more time, or I can be more valuable with my time in this one way. And that's really what we're trying to get focused on, not getting people to be perfect, but getting people to be a little bit better over time incrementally.
Well, because there is no perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I guess one last bit I want to touch on. While we have these, recommendations, for a lot of people, they're introverts. How do they beat that introversion, right? Because frankly, that's what they probably need to do. If you can just get past that, I just want to stay in, right, rather than being out there. How do you recommend folks beat that, Annie?
Believe it or not, I'm an introvert as well, but it's all about like, I do really well one-on-one with somebody. But if you get me in a huge room, I struggle, like in a huge room, I want to go just find the one person that I know to talk to the whole time and have some deep conversation with. But so for introverts, I would say like, if that's what you like, I don't know if a lot of introverts are like that, where they still like to talk to one person, like more deeply or whatever. I think that's kind of perfect, honestly. Like, because then you can be intentional about that person. They can feel valued. You can go out for coffee. You can make it part of your existing life also. So like
Mhm.
the people that I see regularly are the people that are incorporated into my regular life. So like the people that I see at the gym, the people that I go hiking with, the friends of my the parents of my friends' kids, things like that. Um, so find a way, or a meetup that you go to. So find a way that you can regularly see these people if you're an introvert, so that you make it into your regular life. Because I mean, oh my gosh, there are meetups are a struggle for me, because at the end of the day, they're usually like at 6 p.m. or something like that. And I'm like, do I eat first? Do I like, there's just a lot of thinking that goes around it. And then like, I end up not wanting to do it because I go to bed at like 9 p.m. because I wake up so early. And so, all that to say, like, it doesn't fit into my regular life. So, when you can make it sort of systematic, I think that helps to, um, curtail any of your, patterns.
Yeah, yeah. I do agree with you. Finding a system that already exists and kind of like marrying it to that, and also just
Mhm.
shooting for one person. And I say this to people a lot, is especially when they have like, I see someone standing at a meetup and I eventually get to know them and I learn that they want to connect, but they don't know how to. I just tell them, hey, you come to an event and you just have a goal. I'm going to talk to one person. That's it.
Hmm.
That's a
You
great
don't have
idea.
to
Yeah.
think about talking to everybody. Just say to yourself, I'm only going to talk to one person. And if I do that, I can just walk out the door right after that. And but
And
the
get
good thing is,
curious when you're there too, because
yeah,
people love talking about themselves.
Hmm.
yeah. And they almost never end up talking to just one person, because they're talking to one person, another person joins the conversation, and
Mhm.
that's how it
Hmm.
expands. And they smile after that. But I've really liked this conversation, because when I talk about, or when I think about how to fix hiring for juniors, I usually come with the do stuff part, right? Maybe this is just engineering me saying, just build cool stuff. If you build something really cool, someone will like it. Build it, put it out there. It's the internet. Someone would see it, they'll like it, they'll give you a shot. But then today I've also learned to find 20 people, just in case you don't build something cool enough. Find 20 people, build that
Still build a
personal
cool
relationship
thing.
for them. Right? You can do both. You just
Yeah.
increase
Yes.
your odds of success, either as a junior or a senior that is transitioning. That kind of feels like a junior at the moment. Any final words, Michael?
No, I really appreciate being here. Hopefully the basis of what we're saying about being intentional is inspirational for people. The secret that maybe we shouldn't share is you don't need our software for that. Start with a piece of paper, write yourself a note, like get intentional and be incremental about what the next better version of you should be. And that intentionality will go a long way in wherever you are, even if you feel like you're in the middle of a crisis. And a lot of people are feeling that way right now.
Yeah. Ricardo has this interesting question. So he's had questions here. Sorry, Ricardo, that I didn't pull this up. But I said, is this correct? I think the follow-up, the previous question was around people managing their career relationships and people work. And then have you figured out how companies are fine with logging data in a system that's outside the company's control? I guess if data is personal, it's personal to you as well. What you
Would
think?
you like me to try to answer that?
Hmm.
Yeah. So we started out writing a normal SaaS application on a website with a database. And we very quickly realized nobody's going to want to have the data in the cloud. We didn't even want to have the data in the cloud when we were reading each other's database files, Annie and I just testing out this application. So we went a really long way on making the data secure and local. And so there's an app that you run where the data is local on your laptop. And when we implement sync, which will be coming soon, it would be encrypted end to end. And so there would be no way that anybody outside of you would be able to see that data. And that privacy is central to privacy and control is central to our story, where you don't want to have a bunch of data out in the cloud about your personal relationships. You probably don't even want that available to people snooping on your machine, perhaps at your company. This needs to be as private as it possibly can be. And we let our product design off of those requirements.
And it's not to be
Yeah.
putting, your company's IP in there either. You're not going to be putting your project details and things like that. This is all about your relationships and how you feel and how you're showing up for people. And so there's some sort of separation in what the company needs to see and what you need to write for yourself.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you all so much. Thanks for sticking around, Ricardo, as well. Thanks, Mike and Annie, for showing up. I think this has been great. For anyone else listening, if you're a junior trying to find something or you're a senior transitioning, build stuff, find 20 people, and you have a better shot at getting it. Thank you all very much. And that was today's episode of Everything Outside Code. And I'll see you all on the next one. Cheers.